Looking back, I should have seen what was coming. But when you're comfortable, maybe too comfortable, you don't pay attention to the little things that matter. I'm Willow. I'm 37, and I was married to Kyle for 9 years before everything went sideways. Not sideways because of him, mind you. He was predictable, safe. The kind of guy who'd fix your car without being asked and never complain when you spent too much at Target. We met through mutual friends at some random house party, dated for 2 years, then did the courthouse thing because neither of us wanted to deal with wedding drama. It worked for a long time. Kyle had his routines. Work at the manufacturing plant, rotating shifts, coming home tired but never grumpy. I had mine, my job, my friends, our quiet little life and our starter home that he'd bought before we got married. But somewhere around year 8, I started feeling restless, like I was sleepwalking through my own life. Kyle would come home, we'd eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed, rinse and repeat. He seemed perfectly content with this rhythm, but I felt like I was disappearing into it. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't a bad husband, he just wasn't exciting anymore. Maybe he never really was, and I was just too young to notice. That's when I started going out more. Thursday nights became girls' night with some coworkers, then Saturdays too. Kyle never questioned it, which should have been sweet, but honestly just felt like more proof that he didn't really care what I did as long as I was home eventually. I started buying new clothes, trying different perfumes, staying out until 2 or 3 in the morning. Kyle worked nights sometimes anyway, so half the time he wasn't even there to notice when I got home. The thing about feeling invisible in your own marriage is that when someone finally sees you, really sees you, it hits different. Cameron was everything Kyle wasn't. Confident, successful, the kind of guy who owned his own business and drove a Corvette. We met at a bar downtown during one of my Thursday nights out. He bought me a drink, told me I was beautiful, asked questions about my life, like my answers actually mattered. Cameron made me feel alive in ways I'd forgotten were possible. When he texted me, I'd get this little thrill that I hadn't felt since high school. When he looked at me, I felt like the most important person in the room. Kyle looked at me like I was furniture. Familiar, useful, but nothing to get excited about. Cameron looked at me like I was a prize he wanted to win. Our conversations started innocent enough. Complaining about work, sharing funny stories, the usual getting to know you stuff. But Cameron was different from the start. He'd ask about my marriage in ways that made me really think about it. "Does your husband appreciate you?" he'd say. "Does he make you feel special?" The answer was always no, and Cameron could tell. Within a few weeks, I was telling Cameron things I'd never told anyone. How Kyle had gained weight over the years and stopped trying to impress me. How he'd gotten comfortable and lazy, assuming I'd always be there, no matter what. How I felt like I was married to a roommate instead of a lover. Cameron listened to everything and never judged me. Instead, he'd tell me I deserved better. That I was too beautiful, too smart, too vibrant to settle for someone who took me for granted. The physical stuff started gradually. A hand on my arm when he was making a point. Sitting closer to me in the booth. The first time he kissed me, I felt guilty for about 5 seconds before the excitement took over. Here was someone who actually wanted me, who couldn't keep his hands off me, who made me feel desired instead of taken for granted. Cameron was everything Kyle wasn't: successful, ambitious, passionate. He had goals and dreams beyond just showing up to work every day. He talked about traveling, about experiences, about really living life instead of just existing through it. Kyle's biggest aspiration was paying off the mortgage early and maybe getting a newer truck someday. The contrast was stark. But what really sealed it for me was how Cameron treated me like an equal partner in planning our future together. He didn't just want to fool around. He wanted to build something real with me. He'd ask about our finances, about the house, about what my life would look like if I wasn't tied down to someone who'd given up on growth. These weren't just casual conversations. Cameron was serious about us, serious about giving me the life I actually wanted. I started sharing more details with him. Screenshots of our bank accounts when he asked about my financial situation. Photos of the house when he wondered what kind of equity we had. Information about Kyle's job and income when Cameron asked if I'd be okay financially during a divorce. It felt good to have someone actually interested in the practical aspects of my life, someone who wanted to help me plan for a better future. Cameron never pressured me, but he made it clear that he saw potential in us that went way beyond just an affair. "You're playing the long game," he'd say when I worried about timing. "Smart women think ahead." He helped me understand that I wasn't just cheating, I was positioning myself for the life I actually deserved. Kyle had gotten comfortable assuming I'd never leave, but Cameron showed me I had options. The conversations with Cameron became a lifeline. Every Thursday and Saturday, I'd escape into this world where someone actually valued my thoughts and dreams. Cameron would tell me about his business plans, his investment strategies, his vision for the future. Then he'd ask about mine, and for the first time in years, I felt like I had some. With Kyle, the future was just more of the same: work, bills, routine, slow decay into old age. With Cameron, the future was bright and full of possibilities. I started doing research on divorce proceedings, looking up information about asset division and spousal support. Cameron encouraged this, saying I needed to protect myself and plan smart. "Your husband's been coasting on your loyalty for years," he'd remind me. "You don't owe him anything beyond what the law requires." It was liberating to think about my marriage in practical terms instead of emotional ones. The more time I spent with Cameron, the more I realized how much I'd been settling. Kyle wasn't just boring, he was holding me back. His lack of ambition, his contentment with mediocrity, his assumption that love meant never having to try anymore. I deserved passion, excitement, someone who saw my potential and wanted to help me reach it. Kyle saw me as a wife-shaped object that handled household logistics and showed up for dinner. Cameron saw me as a woman worth fighting for. By month 3, I wasn't even pretending to feel guilty anymore. Kyle would come home from work, and I'd be texting Cameron, angling my phone away but not really caring if Kyle noticed. He never seemed to, which just proved my point about how checked out he was. Cameron and I were making real plans by then, not just fantasies, but actual logistics about when and how I'd leave Kyle and start fresh with someone who actually appreciated me. The night everything changed, Kyle came home early from work. Some maintenance issue had shut down his line, so he got home around 10 instead of 6 in the morning. I was out with Cameron, had been since 7, and didn't get back until almost 3. Kyle was already in bed when I got home, reeking of Cameron's cologne and probably looking guilty as hell. But Kyle just pretended to be asleep like always. What I didn't know was that I'd left my laptop open on the kitchen table with Facebook Messenger up. All my conversations with Cameron right there for anyone to see. Kyle had read everything, every complaint about him, every plan Cameron and I had made, every detail about our finances that I'd shared. He'd seen it all, and just gone to bed. Didn't confront me, didn't cause a scene, just absorbed it all and waited. The next morning was Saturday. I woke up around 10, already planning to meet Cameron later, and found Kyle sitting up in bed looking at me with this expression I couldn't read. "We need to talk," I said, because suddenly I felt ready. Ready to stop sneaking around, ready to stop pretending, ready to start the life I actually wanted. "Okay," Kyle said. Just that. Okay. I told him I wasn't happy, that I hadn't been for a while, that I needed more from life than what we had. More excitement, more passion, more of everything. Kyle just sat there listening, which frustrated me because I wanted some kind of reaction. Some fight, some emotion, some sign that he cared enough to be upset. "I'm leaving you," I finally said, loud enough to make sure he understood. "I'm leaving you for someone who knows how to treat a woman, someone who isn't content to just exist." Kyle nodded like I'd told him the weather forecast. "Okay, he's all yours." That threw me completely off balance. Where was the begging, the anger? The desperate attempt to win me back? Instead, Kyle was offering to help me pack, actually asking if I needed boxes from work, like my leaving was just another household logistics problem to solve efficiently. "You don't even care," I said, which felt true and infuriating. "You're pathetic. Cameron was right about you." "Cameron," Kyle repeated, like he was filing the name away. "Got it. So where am I dropping your stuff off?" I was so thrown by his reaction that I actually gave him Cameron's address. Just blurted it out like an idiot. Kyle nodded, said he'd have everything there by tonight, and that was it. No drama, no fighting, no last-ditch effort to save our marriage. Just practical arrangements and calm acceptance. I left and went straight to Cameron's place, expecting comfort and celebration. Instead, I found him pacing around his apartment looking stressed. "We need to talk," he said, which were not the words I wanted to hear. Turns out, Kyle had sent Cameron everything. Every screenshot, every conversation, every detail of our affair, and my financial planning. But that wasn't the worst part. Kyle had also sent screenshots of my conversations with 2 other guys from the past year. Conversations I'd forgotten about, guys I'd been talking to the same way I'd been talking to Cameron. Same complaints about Kyle, same sharing of financial information, same exit planning. Cameron wasn't upset about the cheating, he was upset about being played. "You're running a con," he said. "This isn't about love or passion or any of that stuff you told me. You're shopping for the best deal." I tried to explain that Cameron was different, that what we had was real, but he wasn't buying it. "How many other guys are you having these same conversations with right now?" he asked. I couldn't answer, because the truth was embarrassing. Cameron wasn't the only one I'd been talking to. He was just the one with the most money and the best prospects. "I'm not letting you move in," Cameron said flatly. "I'm not getting involved in whatever scam you're running on your husband. Find somewhere else to go." So there I was, homeless and boyfriendless, standing in Cameron's hallway while he blocked my number and told me we were done. Kyle had destroyed everything with his little screenshot stunt, and now I had nowhere to go and no one to turn to. I took an Uber back to the house, planning to make Kyle understand that he'd ruined everything over nothing. That yeah, I'd been talking to other people, but that was just me trying to figure out what I wanted. Cameron was the real deal, and Kyle had sabotaged it out of spite. But when I got to the house, all my stuff was sitting on the porch in boxes and garbage bags. Kyle had actually done it, packed up 9 years of my life and put it outside like trash. He was inside, had changed the locks, and wouldn't let me in. "Your stuff's at Cameron's," Kyle said through the door. "Good luck with that." "Cameron dumped me because of you," I yelled back. "Because of those screenshots you sent him." "Yeah, probably," Kyle said, like that had been the point all along. I tried everything, crying, yelling, threatening, pleading. Kyle just kept saying the same things, that I'd wanted to leave, so I'd left, and now I needed to figure out my own situation, that he was filing for divorce Monday morning and I'd get served with papers soon. My mother had to come pick me up. Diana took one look at the boxes on the porch and started yelling at Kyle through the door, but even she couldn't make him let me back in. "He can't just throw you out," she kept saying, but apparently he could. The house was in his name from before we got married. I had no legal right to be there if he didn't want me there. The next few weeks were a nightmare. I was staying at my mother's house, sleeping in my old teenage bedroom while Kyle's lawyer served me with divorce papers. Cameron wouldn't take my calls. The other guys I'd been talking to had all blocked me too. Apparently word travels fast in whatever network they were all part of. I tried to contest the divorce, tried to claim abuse and abandonment, but Kyle's lawyer had all those screenshots. Every conversation where I'd called Kyle boring and pathetic. Every plan I'd made to take him for half of everything he'd worked for. Every detail I'd shared about our finances with men I barely knew. It all made me look like exactly what Cameron had called me, a con artist. The settlement was brutal. I got $15,000 from our joint savings and my personal belongings. That was it. Kyle kept the house, his retirement accounts, his truck, everything that mattered. The judge said I was lucky to get what I did, given the evidence of my financial impropriety and marital misconduct. Kyle never gloated, never seemed angry, never acted like he'd won anything. He just went through the legal process efficiently and moved on with his life. The few times I saw him during court proceedings, he looked fine. Not heartbroken, not devastated, just fine. Like divorcing me had been a minor inconvenience that he'd handled and forgotten about. The worst part was how everyone else reacted. My friends, my family, even my mother eventually. They all started treating me like I'd done something wrong. Like I was the bad guy for wanting more out of life than what Kyle had been offering. like I was supposed to just settle for boring and be grateful for it. You had a good man, Diana kept saying. Kyle never cheated, never hit you, worked hard, paid the bills. What more did you want? But that's exactly the problem. Kyle was fine, just fine. And I wanted more than fine. I wanted passion and excitement, and someone who saw me as more than just a wife-shaped appliance that came with the house. I wanted someone who'd fight for me instead of just letting me go like I didn't matter. Cameron was that someone, until Kyle poisoned him against me with his selective screenshot sharing. Kyle made me look like a villain by leaving out all the context. How neglected I felt, how taken for granted, how desperate I was for someone to actually see me as a person worth pursuing. Cameron would have understood if Kyle hadn't interfered. Now I'm living in a studio apartment across town, working the same job, driving the same car, but everything else has changed. Kyle got to keep his comfortable life while I lost everything. My home, my marriage, my future with Cameron, my reputation. All because he couldn't handle the truth about how unsatisfying our marriage had become. The divorce has been final for 2 months now. Kyle seems to be doing great. I heard through mutual friends that he got a dog and remodeled the house. Living his best life while I'm starting over from scratch at 37. Cameron is engaged to some woman he met a month after he dumped me, which proves that he was ready for commitment, just not with someone Kyle had made look like a liar and a fraud. I don't regret wanting more. I don't regret trying to find someone who'd appreciate me properly. I regret trusting Kyle to handle the situation like an adult instead of a vindictive child who'd rather destroy my happiness than let me go gracefully. I regret leaving my laptop open that night, giving him ammunition to use against me. But mostly, I regret not being smarter about the whole thing. If I'd been more careful, more strategic, Cameron and I would be together right now, and Kyle would be the one starting over. Instead, Kyle gets to play the victim, while I'm the one who lost everything. Fine. I'm done caring what Kyle thinks or what anyone else thinks about my choices. I wanted a better life, and I went after it. The fact that it didn't work out doesn't make me wrong for trying. Kyle can enjoy his boring, safe little existence with his dog and his paid-off house. I'll find someone else who actually deserves me. Someone who won't run away the first time things get complicated. Cameron wasn't the only successful man in this city. Kyle might have sabotaged that relationship, but he can't sabotage all of them. I'm still young, still attractive, still have a lot to offer the right person. Someone who won't let a jealous ex-husband's screenshots scare them away from something real. Kyle thinks he won, but all he really did was show me exactly who he is. Someone who'd rather tear me down than build me up. Cameron deserved better information before making his decision about us. I deserved better than a husband who'd give up on our marriage without a fight. But that's behind me now. I'm focused on the future, on finding someone who'll actually fight for me when things get tough, instead of just packing my bags and changing the locks. Kyle can keep his quiet, predictable life. I'm going after something better.